If you think you're special, just remember this. One day you will die, and at your funeral, people will be checking their phones. I know, it hurts. But when it comes to your self-esteem, identity, how people see you, we are oftentimes our own worst enemies. Thankfully, there's a way out of this mess. My friend Joe Hudson is a VC turned spiritual teacher who coaches some of the leading executives in Silicon Valley. On Twitter the other day, he released 50 bite-sized wisdom bombs on how to stop chasing validation, reducing mental clutter, and finding more peace and clarity by accepting life's tensions. So let's start with the first one. If you are scared of feeling an emotion, you're already in it. So I think about the emotions that scare me: fear, anger, and sadness. So I resist sadness and fear a lot by plowing through things. But I guess what he's saying here is if you're scared of feeling an emotion, if you're resisting it, you're already in the fear. So if you're pushing fear away, you're actually already in the fear. If you're pushing sadness away, you're already in the sadness. Number 2, constantly trying to make sense of your emotions prevents you from hearing your wisdom. So what I hear here is the classic overthinker, right? I've been someone who thinks like, oh, am I scared now? Right? Or am I happy now? Right? Or should I be happier? Or why am I so scared? By constantly trying to analyze these, I'm not hearing what they're trying to say to me, right? What is my fear trying to say to me? What is my sadness trying to say to me? Number 3, Joy is the matriarch of a family of emotions. She won't come into your house if her children are not welcome. This is something that I learned about when I left Wall Street, which was living a life through a lens of joy. And I want to distinguish here, again, my distinction. Joy is not just like the ephemeral happiness, right? To me, joy is this steady state of contentment. It's equanimity. It's not being shaken by things. It is this like gentle, like it's a vibe. Like joy is a vibe, and I do think that joy is, if you are not open to joy, right, and like really like trusting that joy is okay, especially if you're someone who thinks that you have to struggle to make things happen, then joy is you're preventing from hearing its wisdom. Number 4, if you can't welcome the emotion, welcome the resistance to it. Let me think about that one. If you can't welcome the emotion, welcome the resistance, right? So again, I think of this of like negative emotions. If you're fighting emotions away, welcome the resistance, right? I think that, again, if you think of these negative emotions, these uncomfortable emotions, as you push them away, what is that pushing away? Like, what is actually happening here? And like, be tender with them, being like, God, why am I pushing away this feeling again? All right. Number 5, ego is as much what you don't think you are as what you think you are. So I know I have an ego, and I know I think quite specially about myself, but ego is not as much what you think you are. It's what you don't think you are, right? So what do I, that's the unknown unknowns. What do I not think I am, right? Let me read it again. Ego is as much what you don't think you are as what you think you are. That's an interesting one. So I don't think of myself. An obvious one is I have questions about my own worthiness. So if I don't think I'm worthy, then my ego is as much driven by that unworthiness. Number 6, you can't give or receive love fully if you're constantly calculating what could go wrong. Right? This is for the catastrophizers, the other shoe's going to drop. And yeah, to me, what I hear is it's a lack of presence, right? If you're constantly worrying, if you're constantly thinking about the next shoe to drop, you can't be present. And if you can't be present, you can't love someone fully. I think about this definition often from Tara Brach. Love is the fullness of presence. Number 7, you also cannot love fully unless you see that you are completely empowered. It is near impossible to love what you think oppresses you. I'm going to have to come back to that one. You cannot love fully unless you see you are completely empowered. That's the part I'm struggling with. Completely empowered. About what? Empowered to, does that mean not have any insecurities? I'm going to have to come back to that one. Number 8, we often abandon ourselves in an attempt to prevent other people from abandoning us. We often abandon ourselves in an attempt to prevent other people from abandoning us. What I hear in this one in my own life is disassociation, right? Just kind of like leaving my body, leaving my feelings, being like, well, you can't hurt me. You want to hurt me. You want to threaten me. You want to withhold love from me. Well, you can't do that because I'm going to disappear. I'm going to disassociate. And I've had dissociative tendencies for much of my life. Number 9, when your thinking is binary, fear is running the show. Ooh. I talk about the middle path all the time, the gray area, the messy middle, right? Like we want like things that are objectively good, like being hot. All right, is being hot objectively good? In Western society, it carries a lot of clout. But then if you're hot, you're always scared of losing. Everyone loses their hotness, right? So that binary, hot or not hot, is actually fear running the show. Number 10, next time you're in a freeze or depression, notice how much of it is repressed or held back anger. Next time you're in a freeze or depression, notice what is repressed or held back anger. I wonder about this one because I don't get angry often. I'm a people pleaser. And I wonder about myself if I have repressed anger from always feeling the need to please others. Number 11, anger. Number 11, anger in its purity is beautiful. Trying to change somebody, change their beliefs, be above them, dominate them, control them, scare them, push them away, or try to make them do anything, that is manipulation. So anger in its purity, raw anger, God, is beautiful. I don't think I've ever experienced raw anger. But trying to change somebody, be above them, I definitely compare myself often. Push them away, that's the dissociative. That is not anger. So that is manipulation. So this is a distinction between manipulation, which Joe implies is a lot of what we think of anger, and true anger, which is beautiful, which is kind of like this vivid expression, which again, I can't relate to. Number 12, the next time you're feeling anxious, notice how much of it is repressed or held back excitement. Ooh. The next time you're feeling anxious, notice how much is repressed excitement. I could relate to that, especially because that what can go wrong. It's like almost I don't give myself permission to be so excited. And that comes back to that point about joy being the matriarch of all emotions. Ooh, number 13, people don't want you to be perfect. What they want is to feel connected to you. As someone who has perfectionist tendencies, who thinks that their perfectionism is a way to feel seen and then a way to feel validated and to feel loved, they just want to feel connected to you. And that's something I feel quite proud of, is my ability to connect with others. So that definitely resonates. Quick time out. If you're enjoying Joe Hudson's wisdom bombs in this video, you will enjoy his Great Decisions course. It is a framework for making great decisions, pivoting your career, downshifting, becoming an entrepreneur, spending more time with your family, and the range of emotions and internal work that comes with those decisions, overcoming the anxiety, the fear, the identity shifts. So if you're interested in the Great Decisions course, just head over to http://view.life patreon.com/RadReads. Enter the code RadReads for $300 off the Great Decisions course. Now back to the wisdom bombs. Number 14. People who are exhausted all day are often in the habit of beating themselves up or telling themselves how they should be. I have a tired soul. I have high standards for myself. I like control. And I'm definitely exhausted a lot. I think I'm not, sleepy tired, but soul tired. Number 15, endless self-criticism is usually a sign that you want to be seen as valuable rather than of value. Endless self-criticism. Now, I used to have a very gnarly inner critic, and I absolutely want people to see me as valuable. But what's the difference between being seen as valuable and of value? I think of value has this element of serving, my interpretation, and valuable is more ego driven. And then the self-criticism, I actually think that's the more interesting part of that one. Number 16, there's no way of getting it perfect. There's no complete, no finish line, no done. There is simply what's the next experiment. There is only play. Now, this is a flow-based lightness, like let joy run your life mantra. I want to believe it. I'm so close to it. I sometimes hedge. I'm like, well, I have financial security, so I have the privilege of doing that. There's no finish line, no done. There's what is the next experiment. Ooh, that's a powerful one. What is the next experiment? And I think that what that really says is if you truly trust yourself, your abilities, your presence, that good shit will happen to you. I don't know if I fully trust myself for that. I want to. Number 17, if you can't say no easily, you can't be trusted. Oof. I can see that. Because that means you have no boundaries. And if you have no boundaries, you can't be trusted. Number 18, if it feels scary to say, it's important. If it feels scary to say, not saying it will hurt your connection. If it feels scary to say, not saying it prioritizes their imagined reaction over your truth. So this is about the reaction you get from others and the defense mechanisms that one creates. If it feels scary to say, right? What feels scary to say to someone that also involves the boundaries? Number 19, you can't be accepted for who you are if you're not showing up as who you are. Ooh, the mask, the pretending, the projection, the chest bumping. You can't be accepted for who you are. It comes back to showing up with authenticity, with vulnerability, like not manufactured vulnerability, true vulnerability. Number 20, we are often scared of the consequences of revealing who we actually are or what we actually think. But whatever that consequence is also happens to be the direct path where we are accepted and loved for who we are. So we're scared of revealing who we actually are, right? Again, we wear these masks. We're scared of the consequences, right? You can think politics, you can think beliefs, you can think religion, you can think just morality, right? And if you're scared of saying it out loud, the consequences is usually being rejected, being hated, then you will never be loved and accepted and loved, or it's harder to be accepted and loved for who you are, right? So not fearing the consequences of authenticity is the path to being truly seen by others. Number 21, willpower is needed if it's a desire from the head. Willpower is not needed if it's a desire from the heart. It's a nice, beautiful koan, right? I mean, this is an audience. Y'all are an audience. I am a person who over-indexes on willpower. Less so, though, in the past 3-ish years. And things are coming more from the heart, right? It's the heart being like this. It's non-verbal, right? What you want, right? And that expressiveness, whether it's through creativity, through work, through your relationships, it's this non-verbal sense of really knowing yourself. That's what I hear. Willpower is not needed if it's a desire from the heart, right? And desires from the heart, I suspect, are usually very pure and sincere, right? Because you can't manipulate it with different thoughts, right? Number 22, if you feel oppressed, the most powerful oppressor is the thought that you can't do anything about. If you're feeling oppressed, the most powerful oppressor is the thought that you can't do anything about. I mean, for me, it's like, you're going to die. One day you won't matter, right? That is a powerful oppressor, right? That leads to so much striving and action. Number 23, if you struggle with paying attention, what was the quality of attention you got as a kid? I think with a tiger-ish upbringing, it was earned attention, right? Look at what I did, right? So if you struggle to pay attention, although I would say that makes me pay more attention, right? I pay attention so that I can get other people's attention. Number 24, if you're trying to manage other people's feelings, you're abandoning your own. If you're trying to manage other people's feelings, you're abandoning your own. Controlling others, controlling how they feel, I guess you lose a sense of your own truth or your own essence, right? It's a tricky one. Many people believe that peace means never, number 25, many people believe that peace means never feeling agitated. Deep peace is the ability to be with agitation without aversion. Oh man, spot on. And I've learned this through meditation and through a lot of the heart-centric practices, IFS, attachment work, is that uncomfortable shit's going to happen, and grief, right? Being able to stand through grief and feel its tenderness and its pain, not repressing it, right? That is to be peaceful, right? Being able to stand in grief and feel its tenderness without shutting it down. That's being truly at peace. When you try to shut it down, you're not at peace. Number 26, people cannot be split up into parts you accept and parts you reject. A person is a whole. I think of Whitman, we contain multitudes, right? You could have the sweetest, most caring person who loves you profoundly and disagrees with you politically, right? You can have folks that are hurt in a certain way. Let's say they were ignored as children, and so they're always, Mr. and Mrs. Know-it-all. You can be frustrated by their know-it-allness, but still love and accept them. Number 27, unconditional love isn't people-pleasing or caretaking. It's the capacity to hold space for others' choices while honoring your truth. Oof. Unconditional love is not about people-pleasing or caretaking. It's holding space. And I used to not like that phrase, holding space. Oh my God, that's so fucking woo. But it is that seeing people for who they are, holding space, right? Being there, being present for them, honoring them while being able to disagree with them. Number 28, judging others for showing off is often an indication that we're struggling with our own desire to be seen. Oh my God, this is like a dagger in my heart. I mean, being on social media, I'm always like, that person's a loser, that person's trying too hard. I'm like, God, that's a mirror. When I judge someone on social media, I'm like, people are judging me. I'm judging myself. And ultimately, all I just want from social media, from all of this podcast, is to be seen. Number 29, being known is the empty calorie surrogate to being seen. So again, as someone who is very visible online, being known, that cares about thought leadership, is an empty, it's like money. Like you can never have enough of it and it's never deeply satisfying. But when you're seen, right? Like when someone sends me a letter, a detailed note, thank you note, whatever that's honors something I've written, like to be seen that way is so fucking moving. But when you like get retweeted a bunch, you're like, God, that is an empty calorie. The desire to be special can only exist when you don't know who you are. I have a strong desire to feel special. I think it's my antidote to irrelevance. It's my antidote to mattering. Do I not know who I am? I mean, I've definitely taken a lot of strides there, but there's a disconnect between wanting to feel special and wanting to know yourself. And I suspect that wanting to know yourself is the good, the bad, the ugly, and the confusing. Number 31, overwhelm is a form of fear. It is the moment where you think you have to get out of flow to manage reality. Overwhelm is a form of fear. Let's think about that. Overwhelm is, yes. I mean, what I hear is overwhelm is a lot of controlling, right? And then you have to get out of flow, right? It's that kind of the no willpower thing and try to control things, shape reality. So yeah, overwhelm is a form of fear when you have to get out of flow and manage reality. Number 32, oh man, I see better than in quotes. Perceiving yourself as better than other people is a sign of repressed emotions. I definitely look at people and like, I'm better than that person. Makes me feel good. What's the repressed emotion? I do that often. I'm better than this person. I'm better. What is the repressed emotion? Fear and sadness, I'd say. Anger sometimes. Oh, anger is coming up. Anger that I often get angry that people don't work as hard as I do and they want the same results. So yeah, I guess I am repressing some of those emotions when I am trying to perceive myself as better than. Number 33, I have never met anyone who is both deeply joyful and harbors a sense of superiority. Again, that better than, the better than is definitely comes from a source of pain and from an unmet desire, an unmet need. And so it's hard for them to be deeply joyful. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Number 34, if you're feeling stuck, it's usually an indicator that there's an emotion you're trying to avoid feeling. If you're feeling stuck, it's an indicator that there's an emotion you're trying to avoid feeling. So usually I want to avoid feeling rejected. So he says the common are fear, anger, and shame. So I work really hard. I get stuck and I'm like, because I don't want to get rejected. I don't want to get rejected. And that takes me away from that joy and that flow state. Number 35. Before we do number 35, Joe and his team at The Art of Accomplishment are launching their Great Decisions course. It's going to give you the courage, it's going to rewrite the scripts to make a bold decision, changing careers, downshifting, becoming an entrepreneur. You can get a $300 discount if you use the code RadReads. Just go to http://view.life/RadReads. And again, that's $300 off the Great Decisions course. It's also in the description below. 35, you cannot become more valuable. Wow. So he's taking off the concept of value off the table, which I think, based on my other spiritual learnings and practices, it is that we are all of value. Like we are born of value. There isn't this kind of Western construct of utility. It's like, well, Elon Musk is more useful than an Uber driver. So, Elon Musk is better, right? More valuable. Number 36, most people believe confidence comes from being really good at what they do or never messing up. But unshakable confidence comes from knowing your worth isn't tied to your performance. Oof, that is, again, the main theme here is a lot of surrendering that like instinctively we know what is truly best. Number 37, what did you call the fear you experience around money? Oh, what did you call the fear you experience around money before you knew what money was? Ooh. I mean, I have a lot of money fears, and they started quite young. I mean, it's very clear. It's safety. I think I watched my parents not feel safe, like physically safe. There were lots of moments growing up when I didn't feel physically safe. And it was actually like not even like being rejected. It was like violence and, getting mugged and things like that. Number 38, how is your relationship with money similar to your relationship with your mom and dad? They are both demanding of hard work. I'll leave it at that. Number 39, judging other people's emotions is just a form of rejecting your own. We can't handle in other people what we don't allow in ourselves. Yeah, I think that I definitely judge people who I view as hot-headed. So I judge people's anger. I judge people's indecisiveness. Does it mean I don't allow anger? I guess we're learning this from reading my own anger. We're learning this together. And indecisiveness, do I judge my own indecisiveness? I don't know. I'd have to think about that one. Number 40, some folks refuse to get angry because they had a parent who raged and was abusive, but they'll get angry at themselves all day long. Again, coming back to deflecting anger, not accepting anger, I'll have to sit with that one. Number 41, finding your purpose is a fool's errand. I talk about this a lot on this podcast. It's like trying to find your breath. I don't want to talk to Joe about this one, but it seems like purpose is not something that you find. It's in you, right? It's emergent. And, it is, I would assume that it comes back to human connection, love, loving others, receiving love, expressing yourself purely. I know for me, purpose has become creative expression. Number 42, your purpose is in you and you were born with it. To think you have to find it cuts off the faith that purpose needs to grow. Ooh, this reminds me of the valuable point. It's like, there is no valuable. It's just in you. So there is no purpose. You don't grow it. You don't discover it. It's in you. And maybe what Joe's saying is like, you have to understand yourself and accept your full range of emotions to basically be connected to that purpose. Number 43, if you're telling yourself you should change a habit, that's a great way to keep the habit. We rebel against tyrants, even if the voice in your head is the tyrant. So I've been telling myself I should drink less. I have been drinking less, but we're rebelling against the tyrant. So who's the tyrant in my head is that's an interesting one. Number 44, you can't stop the voice in your head, but you can react to it in different ways that will change its tune. I saw a few people push back on this, saying that through different experiences, spiritual, psychedelics, that the voice in their head had diminished. I don't think anyone would say the voice stops. I would say the voice in my head has diminished, but it's still quite high. And absolutely, by being more at peace with especially uncomfortable emotions, which is what a lot of this is about, there is definitely a change in that voice once you are comfortable with the negative emotions. Number 45, being conflict avoidant is another way of saying I can't be loved for who I am. Conflict avoidance comes from people pleasing, the fear of rejection, and wanting to be loved and believing that you have to show up a certain way to be loved. And I can imagine that stems from parental relationships. Number 46, if you think you have to act a certain way in order to be loved, you're not actually being loved. You're being loved for someone you're pretending to be, and that's not being loved. I think we've hit a few like that. Number 47, caretaking is a watered down version of love. You can tell because there is no buzz. There's a lot of love and joy in this thread, but what I love about Joe is that he's deeply spiritual and he's a deep thinker, but he doesn't just fucking throw off platitudes. Like this stuff hits. And I do believe that there's a lightness there's a texture to love, and caretaking is like, I think it's a difference between, like, I've said this in different ways, like soul happy or intellectually happy, right? Soul, like the love of souls, and just being like, I know that I intellectually love you, right? Number 48, emotional abuse doesn't just mean yelling or physical violence. It includes any time you use your emotions to control another person. Emotional manipulation is a form of violence, of emotional abuse. I mean, absolutely. And I definitely have in the past been emotionally manipulative. And so I guess that is a form of abuse. Number 49, tension is essential to life. Without the proper tension, a balloon deflates. The strings on a guitar lose their tune and the muscles in your body can't move. The same is true for any relationship, right? Do you need tension in a relationship? Absolutely, right? Or else you're either repressing something, probably your own aliveness, your own sense of self, your own boundaries, right? And so I suspect there's a healthy tension that emerges from that. And number 50, meditation is inefficient if it's your only tool for self-discovery. It's like building a house with only a saw. It can be done, but it's going to take a shitload of time. I could not agree more wholeheartedly. I've meditated for 10 years, started therapy, different types of therapy for 10 years, healed different parts of myself. A lot of this emotional work that Joe's talking about, internal family systems, attachment work, that's in the past year, a little bit of psychedelics. I will say, though, that meditation is an amazing catalyst because of how easy and accessible it is. Maybe it's not easy, but how accessible it is, right? Therapy, you still need to find a therapist. Psychedelics, you can't do it all the time. Breathwork's another one. Breathwork, I don't do a lot of breathwork. But meditation, I do think, kind of quiets everything down, and then you can pair it with other entrees, appetizers, and desserts. So that's number 50. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for following along and reflecting. I hope you got a chance to reflect on these. And again, if you want to do more work with Joe, check out his course, the Great Decisions course, over at http://view.life/radreads, and you'll get $300 off with the code RadReads. Take care.